Doing a little behind the scenes action here and here as I record the podcast. So I'm going to talk today on the podcast specifically about community, about building community and the power of community, both in a business sense and a personal sense. The personal sense will make a lot more sense when it comes to interpersonal relationships and all of the things that our society is experiencing right now as far as having some troubles. But there's also business uses for community and community building. And so a little bit of synergy for me right now because some professional projects I'm working on are doing this. And I think in life right now, we all need more community action. So that's going to be the podcast today. I'm going to hit record on the mic and get rolling. Thank you for tuning in for the behind the scenes of the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. Here we go. Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. The Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. And today we're talking about community. Community building for your business, community interest for you as an individual, and how to balance your role in your community as a leader, as someone who is a collaborator and a partner and a participant in, because you don't always have to be a leader, and the very ethical approach to marketing, selling, and communicating what your business does, your business and your product, via the ideas of building a community. It's actually a very passive way of selling that I find to be very beneficial, and it's actually something I'm working on several projects right now for clients who want to take a softer approach to selling by building community first, by offering value first, and then once that's done, you can get into a sales process. But even then, the sales process isn't going to be a hard sell process, which is why it is highly ethical, because you give before you ask. The old Gary Vee model, jab, 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 right hook. You have to give before you can ask, build real relationships. And then if you're willing to do that, then you have the ability to, again, ethically, morally, and in a positive way, sell a product or service, essentially offer it to someone who has the want or need for it, because you've already built up a rapport, because you've been working on community first. So let's talk briefly about what community means to us as individuals, and then I'll get into how it can benefit your business. With all the things going on in the world right now, with people not understanding each other, not getting along, not feeling like they are in the same game or in the same community, even if they live together, if they're physically connected to each other, but everyone's focused on our differences and not the things that we're alike. And we're much more alike as human beings than we are different. So the focus on differences is the problem right now. There are negative people doing bad things in the world, being racist, taking advantage of having a position of power, taking advantage of other people, trying to hold people down, whether it's individuals or whole groups. Right now, you're seeing a tremendous amount of pushback from those individuals and those groups who feel like they're being held back and had been held back traditionally. And what you have now, the anger, the violence, the almost uncontrollable urge to push back and push back hard, comes from years and years and years of buildup and systematic ideas that keep people down. But if we as individuals want to try to avoid these things, because we're not in control of the government, we're not in control of the police department as individuals. Collectively we vote, and you can march and you can protest and you can write letters to your senator and you can do all the things that people do, and people are doing that, and there's a lot of conversation about that. There's a lot of you guys are seeing that. I want to talk specifically about what individuals can do to make themselves feel part of a community, be more collaborative, be more neighborly with the people that they can come in contact with, whether because they are in their same neighborhood, their same hometown, or using technology to connect with people online, create like-mindedness groups that can come together. And there's two approaches to that even. There's coming together with people that are like-minded, that are like you, that have the same shared experiences, to have those conversations. And then you should also be trying to get outside of your individual comfort zone and go into communities, whether they're virtual or real physically, and connecting with people who have very different experiences than you, because you can learn from them and they can learn from you. Together we open our mind, we create opportunities for collaboration, and we remember to focus on the things that we have alike as opposed to the things that we have different. And even the things that we have different have value. And if you do that, that's a community-minded outlook, is that what you do and your experience has worth and value, and that you can bring that worth and value to others and then learn and take value from their experiences, and we can come together in the middle for more commonality. The more commonality, the more we like each other. The more we like each other, the more we're willing to live together, be in a community together, to do business together, to do all the things that human beings do together as opposed to separated. And there are a lot of systems out in the world. There's a lot of things that try to keep us separated, because a small group of people can control a large group of people if they can keep that large group of people segmented and separated. But if we build communities, and whether it's based on the large ideas like being against racism or against fascism, or small ideas like commonalities between sports teams or entertainment or other very trivial ideas, but there are things that can bring us into a community together, then we continue this process of talking to each other, learning from each other, being collaborative, and then we're less separated, we're more together, and it's not small groups of people who have no control over anything. It's large groups of people who can push back on systems that they find universally unjust. So that's the reason, that the ideas behind community, and it's a little bit of a concept, and it's a little bit of the idea of being a good neighbor. It's a concept. It's not something that's extremely tangible or is something that you can sort of put some very specific factors on, but you know it when you see it, and you understand the value of it when you see it. It's the same idea as kindness or open-mindedness. These are things that are really hard to define, but when you see it, you know it's happening. And when you see the opposite of it, you know that that really sucks, and that brings no value to anyone. So as individuals, as human beings, find ways to create communities, to connect to people through communities. Again, whether they're physical, people that you live nearby, the people that are in your hometown, the people that your kids go to the same school as their kids, you're in the same clubs, you play on sports teams, whether they're recreational, after school, weekend warrior type things, or upper level sporting events, maybe collegiate level, etc. All these different ways that we can sort of put ourselves under the same banner. And even if we're going, in sports, you compete with the other team, but you're still fans of that type of sport. And so at the end of the game, you shake hands and you have good sportsmanship, and you come together, even though you're competing with each other, you've come together for a common good of the love of the sport or anything which is competitive. That's why sportsmanship and working together and teamwork is so important, especially for young people, because that's how you begin the idea of building community, working together for a common good, putting individuals' roles of self-promotion and glory behind the idea of the team. When the team wins, we all win. So these are things that are community-minded. Do this as individuals. Think of this way. Find ways to reach out to people, to connect to people, to bring your experiences and ideas and backgrounds to a community. And then, second half of this is being open and learning from their ideas, their experiences that maybe 180 degrees counter to yours. Doesn't mean either one of you is right or wrong, better or worse. It means you have different experiences you both can learn from and take value in if you feel that you're being collaborative and that you're both being heard and getting to speak. You may not completely understand. It's not going to necessarily change everyone's situation overnight, but the more conversation, the more understanding we have, the more likely that we will understand each other better and relate to each other better and do better with these ideas. So that's on the personal side. Now on the business side, this is something I do professionally, and it seems like now I'm going to try to almost cheapen what I just said to you, and I'm totally not. It's in fact the exact opposite, because doing business with a community mind is actually a really fantastic way of doing business. because it's the exact opposite of that traditional old school sales mode of just trying to convince someone to complete the sale because I want your money and I'm going to get you the thing and I don't care if you need it or not. That stereotypical used car salesman, you know what I'm talking about. The exact opposite of that is community building for a product or a service or a business. By building a community first, by bringing like-minded people together, giving them a space to collaborate with you and with each other, putting like-minded individuals together, and even better, if they're like-minded, but they are physically or background different, if they have differences that can be experienced, but they have a commonality of the product or service or the industry type that you're putting out there as part of your business and your business community building, then you get an opportunity again to bring people, put them in a place together, and everyone benefits from that collaboration. By putting that opportunity for people to come together first, for them to learn from each other, to exchange conversation, to communicate with each other, to gain value from you and your product and your service first. Value first. Let me say it again. Value first. Offer value first. Give, give, give. Give them information. Give them a place to build their own community. Let them build their community. Don't be hands-on and directing it ultimately to your sales channel. If you build a community, they will come. Your sales channel will happen, and it will happen in a very organic way and a very easy conversion sales process because you have given so much value before you ask them to engage in purchasing your product or service. And the folks who engage but in the community but don't buy your product or service, they are creating value within the community, so there's value to you as the business. It's a little bit of a complete reversal of a sales process. It's a longer play. Honestly, in a business scenario, it's a much longer play. It's a much softer approach, and there's less control that you have in the conversion process as the business owner, as the marketing team, as the sales team. But here's the key. Here's the kicker. When you do get them into a sales conversation where they now say, I love the ideas we've been talking about. I need the product or service. I need the things that allow me to do it, to create the project that we're talking about, to play the sport, to educate myself in order to get a career in the field that we're talking about here. The things that are part of the community, the aspects they need that you can sell them, that you're going to make your economic value from. It's not about what does it cost and should I shop you versus the other 10 competitors. It is because you've given me value, because you've engaged me in this way, I now am ready to do business from you the way you want to do it. So an easier sales process, a quicker sales process, less negotiation, less likelihood of return of the product or service or unhappiness, much more likely that you're going to get great reviews and evaluations. You've set an expectation, you've met that expectation, you're going to have happy customers, repeat customers, a much more likelihood that they're going to recommend that sales process to their friends and family, but also the people in the community that you've been attracted to because they have the same ideas. So you have a common audience that are going to be telling each other that you met the expectation, you lived up to it, that was set. They had a transaction, they were happy about it, they should do the same, and now the community is selling your product or service. That's the end run, that's the long play on community building for a product or service. If you have the patience and you have a product that makes sense in a community scenario, there's great value in doing that. And I would like all of you to check out the ideas of community building for your business as opposed to building sales funnels, click funnels, and all the rest of it. Now, certain things, certain commodities, trying to sell candy bars and cans of Coke or beer or whatever, it's a conversion process. I hope you like it. Get into it. Here we go. But great businesses, Apple builds community, Red Bull builds community, GoPro builds community. A lot of big brands build community around their product or service first, and then that community sells the product or service for them. So that's the idea behind community product and community selling, because you have built community first and then you get into the sales cycle. So 2-part conversation today on the Saturday Morning Hustle. Number one being, let's be community-minded as individuals. We will get great value out of it. We will be better human beings. We will get along better. We will understand each other better. In the long run, future generations will do better too, because our example of us connecting, even if it's over something trivial or something that doesn't seem like it's a big deal, little things create big deals. Start with the little things. Start with the things you can control. Start with the things that you can do. You can't change our system of government tomorrow. You can't change police profiles and processes that are in place tomorrow. People are talking about doing that a lot. And it's fine that they have those conversations, and some change can come from that, and some change should come from that, because police departments all over the country can and should be doing better. There absolutely are failures all over the place in places. I'm not saying the whole system is broken. I think it needs to be adjustments instead of taking the system and throwing it away, but that's a whole different conversation for a whole different day. Today, I want to tell you what we can focus on is building our community, our small group of people, whether it's people we live with or in our area, or people that we connect with online or via technology, and get to know those people, get to understand those people, communicate with those people, collaborate with those people, take your experiences to the community, learn from the experiences brought to the community that are not your experiences, learn empathy, learn understanding, open your mind, and eventually we're all going to get along better, understand each other better, and come to those common ideas of how things should be done, whether it's police, government, or simple things like how to run a softball league for our kids. All those things are much easier. Helping kids in school, helping people start businesses, doing things that are good for them economically and viably so that they can support their families, and creating a cycle of good if we build a community first. So that's the conversation today. If you guys have questions, you have comments, you want to get involved, if you're on the Anchor, if you're listening to the podcast on the Anchor app, call in on the Anchor app, a cool feature on the Anchor app. And if you're not on the Anchor app, you should check that out, the ability to call in to podcast. If you're listening to the podcast or watching the video on any of the other platforms, hit me up on social media, use the hashtag Saturday Morning Hustle, and I will answer any questions, field any comments. If you want an even deeper conversation about how to build community around a product or service that your business is involved in, you can hit me up as well, and we will make a connection, send some emails back and forth, and I can help you in that aspect as well. But most importantly, think of community first as an individual and as a business. You can also add a community to an existing product, business, existing business model. You can do it as value added. You can do it as bonus. You can just do it in deepening the relationships you have with your audiences. There's a lot of great aspects to community building with business. So if you want to have more conversations about that, hit me up. Also, you can connect with me at www.saturdaymorninghustle.com. That's right. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you want to know more information. Let me know if I can help you build a community for a community-focused idea or a business in the future. I hope you guys liked all that, took it all in the loving way that I've hoped to present it to you. And I will talk to you next week on the Saturday Morning Hustle. Every weekend, we're going to earn it. Rise and grind. Work smart, work hard, earn it, even on the weekend. See you next week. There you go, 17 and a half minutes on the podcast. You just got to see the whole behind the scenes. Appreciate you guys tuning in today on YouTube. Go please and subscribe on all the platforms that you listen to podcast, on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I think it's on iHeartRadio. I get my podcast confused sometimes. And definitely on Google Podcast and the Anchor app. Appreciate you guys tuning in again each and every week to the Saturday Morning Hustle. Thank you for the experimentations that I've just started here on YouTube. If you're watching the video, please make a comment below. Hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it very much. Talk to you next week on the Saturday Morning Hustle.